Hi there, and welcome once again to OpenNMS 101, the video series where we hope to bring you up to speed on the OpenNMS network management application platform. Now, when I started these videos, I knew that in the future I would have to go back and redo some of them. The OpenNMS project is very dynamic. There's a lot of work going on in the project, and I was like, something's going to change, and it's going to be a big enough change that I need to talk about it in a video. I didn't realize it was going to be this soon. It turns out that in Horizon 19, our latest release, we changed the way you make users admin users, and since that was kind of the point of the Module 2 exercise, here's a brand new Module 2. Now, if you are running Horizon 19 or Meridian 2017 or anything later than that, you probably want to start with this module. If you are running Horizon 18 or Meridian 2015 or 2016, watch the old one because things have definitely changed. If you want, you can watch both, but it'll be a little repetitive. Now, I'm assuming at this point in time, you've watched Module 0, which is the introduction, and Module 1, which is installation. So you've got OpenNMS installed, and the trick now is, okay, what do we do with it? How do we access it? Well, as you can imagine, there is a user interface, and we're going to explore the very basics of the user interface. So I'm going to jump over here to my browser, and I'm going to type in the address 172.20.120.3:8980, and if I go to 124:8980. If I go here, it'll connect to the website and it'll bring up the login page. Now, if you're on the OpenNMS server, you could use localhost 8980. If you are having problems, make sure that you've configured your firewall properly, but you should be able to connect to port 8980 and access the GUI. Now, we use the very secure username password combination of admin. So I'm going to go ahead and log in there, and it brings me up to this page. Now, the very, very first time you log in, it's going to ask you to opt into a program which will send us a small amount of information about your OpenNMS instance. I'm going to click on this Show Me What Is Being Sent. We're totally transparent here. I just want to let you guys know this does help us quite a bit. We get about 5,000 downloads a month, and we have no idea if people use them, if they're just trying it out. And this is supposed to help us with that. So we send things like the number of alarms, the number of events, the number of nodes, etc. This randomly generated system ID is the only thing that identifies this system. So we don't collect any IP addresses, we don't collect any host names, etc. So it's this system ID that will let us know that we're getting talked to from this particular instance of OpenNMS. Now, we don't have anything in here at the moment because we haven't discovered anything yet. But one of the cool things is this nodes by sysobject ID. As we'll discuss later in Module 6, the system object ID is an SNMP value that tells us what devices people are using. And we hope to use that to better support the devices that our users like, so that they get more value out of OpenNMS. Now, in the interest of full transparency, all of this data is available on a website called OpenNMS Statistics. I'm just going to open that in a new tab. So once I opt in here, I can go over here, and this is a Grafana instance that shows the number of installs that you saw. We just had, I think that might have been me. We just had an install increment there from 1224 to 1225, and it gives you some information about the rest of the system. And you can feel free to play with this, but we want to be very, very open about what we're using this data for. Okay, getting back to the web UI, there are several parts of the web UI. We have our menu up here, and then the main page is divided into 3 areas. This area here on the left, this is kind of your to-do list. So we've got several things. Pending problems are devices with active alarms. And so you can go in and see if there are any alarms on your network. Nodes with outages reflect those nodes with a particular service outage. It's a particular type of alarm where a service is actually down. We also have a business service monitor, which is this ability to take different network resources and represent actual applications like web apps as a business service. So you could put your your e-commerce site could be a business service, etc. And then you could get the status of that at a glance on the front page. And then in our monitors, we also have this idea of applications. So you can build applications that you're monitoring here. So this is on your to-do list. In the middle section, there are a number of things you can configure here. By default, we have these two sections. This piece right here, this top piece, is called the real-time console. And it is a way to look at the service availability of services on your network. So we divide this into a number of different services like network interfaces. That's ping and SNMP. If you mouse over, it'll tell you web servers, email servers, etc. And as you discover devices, they'll automatically be put into these categories. Now you can change these categories. You could make it based on location. You can make it based on vendor. So pretty much any aspect of the database you can use to create filters that will actually categorize these different sections on the front page. And we'll cover that in a later lesson. Now this is new in 19, is this geographical map on the front page. So we have this geographical map, and at the moment we haven't discovered any nodes, so we don't have any information. But if in the asset fields of the nodes I discover, if I put in an actual address, we will show the location of that device on this map, which is kind of cool. Now over here on the right-hand side, this is more like the research section. So you can manage your notifications. Of course, we don't have any. You can generate reports. You can look at graphs, and you can do searches. All this stuff on this side here. Now, does that make sense? Now, this is the menu. This is the front page that's presented to everyone. But if you're an admin user, if you mouse over the username here, you'll see there's this Configure Open NMS option. And if I click on that, that brings up the admin menu. And this is only available to admin users, and it includes everything you need to do, or most of the things you need to do to set up and manage how Open NMS is monitoring your network. Not every user will need admin access, but you do not want to use the admin user for everybody. In a lot of cases, we track who does things, and you don't want it to be admin. If something bad were to happen and you could say, oh, admin did it, it's not going to be very useful. So what you want to be able to do is create specific users for everyone who needs access and then assign them the admin role. So I want to create a user for me. So I'm going to click on Configure Users, Groups, and On-Call Roles. I'm going to click on that. And then I'm going to click on Configure Users. So as we said, we have two do not delete or permanent users. One is admin. What I recommend that you do is once you've created your admin user, you go here and you reset the admin user's password to some random string that no one knows. And then there's the RTC user. This is the real-time console user who has to communicate with the web app to populate that front page categories section. So you need these two users, but I'm going to add myself. So I hit add new user. I'm going to type in TARUS as my user ID, and for the password, I'm going to use 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and I'm going to confirm it with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to hit OK. Now at this point in time, I have not created a user. That won't happen until I come to the very bottom of this page and click Finish. And if I did this right now, let's just go ahead and do it. Boom, Finish. I've created a user. But I want to go back and add some information to this record. So I'll click on the little modify icon. I'm going to put in a name. I'm going to put in my name. And I'm going to use the French method of capitalizing all the letters in the family name. So my family name is Baylog, and I'm going to capitalize all those letters. I don't know why I do this. We do a lot of work in many countries, and some countries list the family name first. Some countries don't. And so I like to indicate the family name by doing all caps. And so I'm going to leave a comment, he's an odd one, ain't he? Because I do stuff like care about capitalizing family names. Here you would probably put maybe, where this person's located, some other information, or you could leave it blank. But this is a field that you can leave some notes about a particular user. Now I'm going to talk about these security roles. This is the big thing that changed between OpenNMS 18 and 19. Used to be you would edit a file called magicusers.properties. Now you just do it through the GUI. But I don't want to do anything yet, so I'm going to leave all these roles off. And I want to talk about this notification information down here. Here's where you can put user-specific fields that can be used in notifications and other aspects of OpenNMS to send information to a particular user. So for the email, for now, I'm going to put in root at localhost. And the reason I'm doing that is setting up mail can be a little tricky. We do talk about that in the module 4 in the notification system. But if you use root at localhost, that will send mail to the root user on the OpenNMS server. And usually this works out of the box, so I can use the command line mail command to look up at the different emails that I get. So go ahead and do that. Now the pager email field is a special field that most mobile network providers have some sort of way where you can get an SMS from an email. I use AT&T, so if you send an email to my phone number at txt.att.net, I'll get an SMS message. I'll get a page, if you will. So I would put in that information here, because in notifications you might want to send an email, but if no one replies, you could then send in an SMS. There's other things. There's the XMPP address. This is like Gtalk or Jabber. So you could set up XMPP so it sends instant messages to people. Microblog, you can tweet at people. This section here, this numeric service, text service, this is a holdover from the days of actual pagers, numeric and text pagers. Nowadays, we tend to just co-opt these fields when doing notification commands. We'll talk about that later, so I'm not going to fill in anything here. And then finally, we have an integration with the open source telephone PBX called Asterisk. And so if you put work phone, mobile phone, home phone, you could actually configure Open NMS to call you and speak a notification. I don't have that configured here, but you can go ahead and do that. Now, down here at the bottom, we've got this thing called duty schedules. Now, the idea is, by default, if a notice happens, every user gets it. But maybe you have people who are on call, and so you don't want everyone to get waking up in the middle of the night because there's an issue. So you can add a duty schedule. So let me add a schedule here. And I'm going to click Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And I'm going to change the begin time from 0900 hours to 1700 hours. So 9 to 5. So 9 to 5, if I get notices, I will only get notices between the hours of 9 a.m. and 5 p.m. in the afternoon. And so right now, as I'm doing this video, it's 5:06, so I wouldn't get a message. Now, you could do this for all the different users in your group or your department. And let's say someone's on call. Well, you could go in here and edit this and change this to put them on call. Or you could just add another schedule. These schedules are additive. So if I come in here and click Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday from 0 to 2359, that's 24/7. So in this case, I will get notified 24/7. And then, say on Monday morning, if I'm on call, I could come in, I could remove the 24/7 module from this person, add the 24/7 duty schedule to the next person, and that's how I do it. We have this thing called on-call roles now, where you can do this a little easier. But in the old days, this is how people did it. I just wanted to demonstrate that duty schedules are additive. So you take the union of everything. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these because I'm not going to use it for this. And I'm going to hit finish. Finish is very important. None of this stuff happens unless you hit finish. So now I have my user. So I'm going to go over here to the admin menu, click log out. And I'm going to log in as me. And it is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And as you can see, now I'm logged in. I get the same screen that I did as an admin user, but up here in the corner, it says Taurus. Now, if I mouse over my name, notice I do not have the option to configure Open NMS because I'm not an admin user. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to log out, log back in as admin, and I'm going to log in. I'm going to go over here to admin, configure Open NMS, configure users, groups, and roles, configure users, modify the Taurus user. I'm going to add the admin role to my user. Now there's tons of other roles here. By default, everyone gets the user role, even though it's not expressly listed in this list. The only other role you really should focus on right now is this read-only role. We call this kind of the Dilbert pointy-haired boss role. Suppose you have a person who wants to see what's going on in the network, but they're not in a role where they should be fixing things. So they shouldn't be acknowledging notices or alarms or doing any of that. Well, you can make them a read-only user. In that case, they can only generate reports and look at various things like alarms. They cannot actually acknowledge them or modify them. And so that's kind of the reason is, hey, someone wants to look at this information, but they're not expected to do anything. Therefore, we don't want to give them the ability to change things within the system. And I want to go and remember, go down to the bottom here and click Finish. I'm not going to navigate away until I do that. Now, there's one other thing I want to do. Now that I've added the role admin to the TARS user, I should be able to log in and actually get this Configure Open NMS menu. Before I leave, I want to go to the group menu here. And what I want to do is I want to add this user to the admin group. Now, this group name admin, it means nothing. It's just a string. There's nothing magical about admin. But it turns out that OpenNMS sends notices by default via email to the admin group. So as the further exercises are done, we want to make sure that people can get them. And so we're going to add this user to the admin group. Notice we tend to use lowercase names for users and uppercase names for groups. It's just a best practice. So I'm going to go here and notice we have a couple of users. I'm going to click my name and I'm going to move me over to the group. And so now I am in the admin group. This doesn't make me an admin. That adding role admin to my user made me an admin. This only puts me in the admin group. Now notice this move up, move down. So I can click on this and move me up or move me down. This is used in notifications. It is possible to send notifications to a group, which by default will be sent to everyone in the group at the same time. But you might want to set a delay. So you might want to say, send to the group, but send to the first person in the group, wait a minute, send it to the second person in the group, and wait a minute, to allow for people to actually get in and acknowledge it and stop that escalation from happening. So you probably don't want to be the first person in this group. It isn't round robin. It basically starts with the first member of the group all the time. And then I want to talk about this section here. OpenNMS does have a kind of an access control list. It's not, we're trying to make it a secure access control list, meaning if you don't have access to a particular device, you just won't be able to see anything about it. But at the moment, the way the feature is set up is it just shows you devices that you are configured to see. There's nothing preventing you from navigating using URLs and seeing other parts of the web UI. That should be fixed, but we are working to find all the little places where people could do that. So currently it's used mainly as, hey, if I'm just concerned with databases, I don't want to see routers and switches. And so you can create groups and you can move these groups, these categories, into associated with a group. And therefore, if the ACL feature is turned on, then users will only see those devices that have been assigned to that category. Now, if you're an admin user, that ACLs don't work. So if I have role admin like I do, it doesn't matter what happens. I want to be able to see everything in the system. So I'm not going to do anything right here with categories. And also groups have duty schedules. So I could add a duty schedule for the group. And we're going to talk about that more at length in the notification section. So for this thing, I'm going to move myself over here into the admin users group. And then I'm going to go and log out. So I'm going to log out and I'm going to log back in as me. I'll do the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 again. I logged in, and if I mouse over, notice now I have the Configure Open NMS menu item, which wasn't there before. Okay, let me jump back to the slides so we can cover. Again, what did we just do? Well, we showed you how to log into Open NMS. We talked about the opt-in. I strongly encourage you to do this, but you may have security practices that say we can't send anything out, so definitely opt out. If OpenNMS doesn't have access to the internet, specifically the stats.opennms.org server, it won't work anyway. Stats.opennms.org, remember this is open to, this is information we present to everybody, so you can kind of see what's going on. We do, if you're interested, please play with it, but we want to show that this is very, very transparent. Talked about the home page and the different sections of the home page. You've got your to-do list, you've got ways of visualizing the network, and then you've got kind of your research section. The admin menu, the configuration menu, I split this up into a couple of pages here because it doesn't fit on a slide. So this is kind of the top section. This is the bottom section. If you look down under additional tools, you'll see this data choice menu. If I jump back over to OpenNMS and I go to configure OpenNMS, data choices, that brings up the opt-in, opt-out menu again. So if you ever need to change whether you've opted in or opted out, that's one way to do it. Now, we did an exercise. So what we did is we logged in as the admin user. We created the Taurus user. We added him to the admin group. We logged out. When we logged into the new user, notice Configure Open NMS was not available to me until I logged back out and added the role admin to the new username, logged back out, and then I logged in as the new user. So a few other things I want to talk about briefly. At this point in time in the old lesson, we would edit a file. And so I wanted to talk about configuration files within OpenNMS. Well, first of all, if you're on Red Hat, these are the file paths. If you're on Debian or Ubuntu, they're slightly different. It's user share OpenNMS instead of opt OpenNMS. But basically, you've got this bin directory, which is where OpenNMS binary files live. The file that actually starts OpenNMS lives here. The etc directory is where our configuration files live. Jetty Web Apps is the web root of Jetty, which is the web server we use for this. In that directory or subdirectories, one's called OpenNMS, and that is actually where this slash OpenNMS comes from. So if you ever need to modify things in the web UI, you will do that in the Jetty Web Apps directory. The lib directory is where the compiled libraries or the jar files, we're a Java application, so we create these jar files, they live in lib. And then share is where reports and RD data live. That's usually a symlink to var OpenNMS because it's variable data, so it goes in /var. Same thing for logs. We have an opt OpenNMS log files, which tends to be a symlink to var log OpenNMS. Now, there are two main types of files that we deal with. There are XML files. And XML files is the extensible markup language. This is kind of like HTML. HTML is a markup language. And if you've ever written a web page, this is like it's the whole tag thing. So let me jump over here and say, vim foo.html. So I'm editing a web page, so I might start it off with a tag called insert. Oh, it's not gonna let me do it because I'm. I should have access to that. Yeah, foo. I didn't realize that was root. Insert, I'm going to do a tag HTML, so that starts out my web page, and I might say something like title. This is the title of my page, and then I put something like a closing tag, which is the tag with a slash in front of it. So I'll end it with title. This says everything between the title tag here and here is the variable that makes up the title. This is the title of my page, and then I might start off with a body tag, and then I might have a paragraph. This is paragraph 1, and then I'll close that out with a /p, and then I'll do another p. This is paragraph 2, and I'll close that out, and then I'll put a /body because I'm at the bottom, and then I'll do a /html. That's markup. So all of our XML files will be very, very similar to this. We'll have tags, we'll have attributes, etc. The difference between HTML and XML is XML tends to be a lot less forgiving of errors. Like if I didn't put this /p here, if I deleted that line, it would probably print out. Sometimes you would get 2 paragraphs. Sometimes the second paragraph might be indented, but it would still work. With XML, it would screen because the paragraph tag here is not closed. There's not a closing tag. So anyway, that's markup. The second type of file we have is called a properties file. And at this point in time, we would have edited a file called magic users.properties. This is just a text file where you have a variable name, an equal sign, and then some value. You can have spaces, you can have everything. It's delimited by a carriage return. So until you hit that carriage return character, that's going to be the variable. And they're a little easier to deal with than XML files, but they're very, very difficult to verify. We have tools like XML-lint that will actually go through and check the integrity of an XML file. We don't have something like that for the properties file. Anyway, I'm still throwing that in there because this will come in handy as you move through the various modules. So we added a user. We added me as the user. We added our the name and details. Remember, we set the email to be root at localhost, and we talked about duty schedules. Remember always to click finish when you're doing stuff on users. It's very, very easy to think you're done and to navigate away from the page. Be sure to hit finish. Then we added my user to the group. We talked about how things are ordered. And so you never want to be the first guy in the group because you'll probably get notified more than you want to. We talked about ACLs. Remember ACLs, for right now, please treat them more as just a way to make it easier for your users to focus on their information and not true solid security. In 19, I still want to test it out. In 19, a lot of bugs were supposed to be fixed with that. But at the moment, treat it like a filter. Groups have duty schedules that behave slightly different than user duty schedules, and we'll talk about that at length in Module 4. Now, I did not get admin rights until we actually edited my user and added the admin role. And remember, in here, the two roles you're interested in are the admin role and the read-only role. They're kind of polar opposites. Admin means you get access to everything. Read-only means you only get to see things. You don't get to actually submit any changes or forms. Role admin will override read-only. So if someone has both roles, then they're not going to have read-only access. They're going to have admin access. And that's it. So I hope that you have found this to be useful. Again, please play around with it. As I said, this is a lot easier in order to assign people to admin role. You don't have to edit any files now. You can do it through the GUI. So that's definitely an improvement. But anyway, check this out. Be sure to check all of the other lessons we have. And until next time, hope you're well. See you then.